guys, today we have another product sent in from banggood.com. This time it is a 132 scale radio controlled buggy. If you're looking for one of these, it is a top Fans CTW168. So like I usually do, this video is going to be about the features of the RC car, and in the next one I'm going to show you the little car in action. And because it's 132 scale, it's going to suit our diorama perfectly. So we'll get to test it out on our little roads and see how it performs going through the coffee grind field. So like I said, this one was sent in from banggood.com. Again, it'll be from China, and it seems to have survived pretty well. The box was covered in foam packaging, and it looks to have just had a little hit there on the front, but considering it travelled pretty much halfway around the world, it's not too bad at all. And I'm sure if we open it up, there'll be no damage on the inside. It's very nicely packaged, very professional looking. Looks to be a little story in the history of the design there on that page. And if we get in here, it looks to be packaged very nicely. So we have a couple of little traffic cones. They look a little bit too big, I'd say. They don't really look on the scale, but the little car itself looks to be perfectly in scale. Let's take a look at it. There is springs on the front there. Well, there is. That's a nice little suspension system there. See, there's a little bit of a hinging just happening in the front there, and the rear of the model, it's also hinged. You can see it coming up along the inside of the model there. So it's got a little bit of a suspension system. The steering is nice and smooth, but I get the impression that it's not proportional control, but we'll take a look at that. It has very nice rubber tires. Can't fault that. I'd say you're getting plenty of grip out of them. They're not the hard plastic you get on some of the models that won't get any grip on your road. I'd say they're going to work perfectly on our sandpaper road. So far so good. I think that it's quite a decent little model, and looks to be reasonably within the right scale. If we place it up alongside our 132 scale Subaru, looks to be around about the right size. So I think they got the scaling right. I mean, you would expect, if this is a buggy, it's not really intended for the road, so you would expect it to have maybe a wider axle or bigger tires and be a little bit more kind of crazy in its dimensions, I guess. But it looks to be pretty spot on for the scale there. I'd be quite happy with that. It kind of looks like something you'd get in Grand Theft Auto out in the desert part of that map. It's pretty good now, I have to say. Considering it's only $25, I think it's pretty good so far. But let's see what the control is like. So if we take a look at our controller, it actually feels reasonably smooth. I'm fairly certain that there's no proportional control there, but I could be wrong. The trigger feels like there's possibly proportional control. I mean, it's a cheap controller, but it doesn't feel too bad. The action is quite smooth on all the controls there, so it's pretty good. I'm quite happy with that controller. Let's see what's in the battery box. We need, looks like 4 AA batteries. That's okay. I didn't see a battery for the car yet. I wonder, is there? Oh, there is more stuff under here. Looks like stickers for the model and a little screwdriver to take it apart. And that appears to be everything. So let's find out where the battery is. So in the little kit that came with it, you get a few stickers. I think that's one for the spoiler there, one for the roof, and I'd say those two are probably for the controller maybe. But you do get your little instruction book, so probably says in that, and a little screwdriver for taking off your battery pack. To charge the little car, you have to use your controller. So we have 4 AA batteries in the controller. On the top of the controller there is a little tab you open there. Then there's a cable in here, and we're going to use that to charge our car through the charging point on the bottom. I want to see the little LEDs here. There's 2 LEDs there. So you need to turn your controller off and your car off, and then the charging point is here. So this little LED should come on if it's charging. Yeah, that LED is on. The green one looks to be on as well, but maybe they're not. That's very hard to tell. I'm not sure. Either it's charged or we're not charging. So maybe we'll come back to this later after we've used it and see does the light change then. Actually, let's just open this up and see what's in here. There's a tiny little battery. And if you look closely there, you'll notice that the battery is not connected. So probably easier to charge it if you connect the battery first. Okay, well now that we have our little battery pack hooked up, let's try this again. There's the charging point there. We definitely have a light this time. So that's charging the little car. Okay, well the manual talks about having to bind the car to the controller, but I don't see the binding switch unless it's on the car somewhere. But anyway, when I turned on the power, it does seem to work straight out of the box, so you don't seem to need to bind it. You do have speed control on your throttle, so you can go nice and slow, or it can go crazy fast. I have a feeling it's that fast that we mightn't be able to control it on the diorama, but one thing I've noticed, the throttle here, you do seem to have electronic brake, so if you go full power and then you put the throttle the other way, so full power, throttle, it stops immediately. If we go reverse, if you're full speed in reverse, it just seems to be normal, but maybe yeah, it looks like you have a brake when you're going full power forward and you put your throttle backwards, it brakes. Now there does appear to be some sort of proportional control. It's not from a servo, so I'd imagine it's the same way we did it in the Subaru, where we are just varying the pulse width modulation on the steering. So I'd imagine that's all that's happening there. But it's better than you get with most models. A lot of models it's just full left, full right. At least you get a little bit here, although it'll be very hard to control it really. But that's the case with the Subaru as well. It's exactly the same. But this thing is crazy fast, so I think we're going to need something a little bit bigger than the diorama to really test it out. We can see in on the back here we have this single little motor here. Our gearbox appears to be made up of at least 3 gears. There's a cavity up there, there's the one from the motor there, and then the one on the axle will be there. So we do have a little bit, and I wonder is there a flywheel in this, because we do seem to have a little bit of momentum and it's slow to get going, but it could be just the motor. It could be actually that the gearbox is such a low ratio that the mass of the wheels is kind of acting like a flywheel, so when you let off the throttle, the momentum built up in the wheels just continues unless you hit the brake, obviously. So that's the Phantom CTW168. This came from banggood.com, so that's where you need to go if you want one for yourself. And there should be a link in the description with a bit of a discount code for that. It's only $25 anyway, and I think it's a pretty good model for $25. It feels good, it seems to drive pretty well. You have a decent sort of a controller. All in all, I think it's a pretty good model, better than a lot of the cheap RC cars. I know in the shops here you wouldn't get much of a car for €20, so I think that's pretty good. It's way faster, way more kind of versatile than a lot of the ones you'd find in the toy shops here. So I think it's a pretty good buy. I don't think it'll be that useful for our models. I don't think this motor would have enough power to drive the heavier, like your CQ tractor or those kind of heavier models. But it is the right scale. So if you had a diorama, say you already have your field built up like a quarry or something, you could get two of them and have a buggy race in the middle of your scenery. Like, why not? Just add a little bit more excitement to your show or your scenery at the bit of an event. Although they might be a little bit quick for displaying, really. You'd kind of have to see. You might end up launching it off a ramp on your scenery and it land the other side of a display hall or something, so you probably want to be a little bit careful with that. So that's all there is to it. If you want to get your own, check out the link in the description. I'll have another video showing it in action on my scenery, and we'll get to see how well it performs there. And that's pretty much everything, so thanks very much for watching.